Well, hello and welcome to the kitchen of the dollhouse. And what are we cooking up today? Well, another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Joost Elfers for November 1st, the day of Onslaught. That's right. Here at the top of the page for the day of Onslaught, the visual representation we have to represent the day. What is it? Well, it is a plow. That's right. Horse-drawn, ox-drawn. Who's to say? I think you could probably hook anything up to it. In any event, is that an adequate representation of the day of Onslaught? Who's to say? But you know what? We might make a connotation or two as we get on with the reading. But in any event, that's not what's important here. What's important is it's November 1st, and it's someone's birthday today. That's right. Is it November 1st and it's your birthday? Well, if it is, I just want to say happy birthday. That's what's important. Me saying happy birthday. But if this video finds you late, days, weeks, months, whatever it might be, you're a busy individual, right? It's understandable. Well, in that case, I just want to say, I hope you had a happy birthday. That's right. If everyone else who's just joining us randomly, or more ideally, to celebrate the November 1st, the day of Onslaught birthday, I just want to say hello and welcome. And I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before we dive in with the birthday read real quick, I'd like to do something around these here parts. This is the DykASSt birthday broadcast, so we like to roll some dice. That's right. And live up to the namesake, if you like. But in any event, we do so more importantly here for synchronicity's sake. And rolled us a 1 and a 6 for a 7. That's right, there's a 1 in there, so one of those numbers should be pretty easy to remember, considering it's the first. All right, so what is synchronicity, you might be wondering? Well, it's just you getting out in the world and letting the universe show you it's with you on your path. And you do that by looking for your numbers. Now, you don't have to go with what I rolled you. The intention is there. It's probably ideal you get your own set of dice, matter of fact, so you can ascribe directional values to number sets and also get time values with which to go in those directions. But once you reach the end of those time limits, well, you stop, compose yourself, and you look for your signs. That's right, your numbers, or more, maybe you don't even see your numbers. That's right. Hey, you know what? Look for anomalies. Look for anything that just jumps out at you, and then chase those down. It might be someone wearing a plaid pink shirt on their way through a crowd of people wearing otherwise boring types of clothing. All right, anomalous things like that. So maybe bend down, roll your dice to find out how long to follow them, and stand up. But hey, what's this? Well, maybe they've disappeared into the crowd and you can't find them now. What do you do now? You know what? Sometimes the universe does that. Hey, maybe that wasn't your sign, but at the same time, maybe it was, and you just took too long. That being said, the universe has a way of putting things back into your path, so fear not. Hey, maybe the number 7 bus pulls up around that time. Hey, jump on there. Maybe you just so happen to have perfect change in your pocket, and you don't even ride the bus. That's right. So roll your dice, find out how long to ride the bus for, and maybe around about the time that time limit comes up, the number 6 stop pops up. Who's to say? Well, get off. See what you see. And maybe it drops you off at, a farmstead there. And there's somebody plowing the earth. That's right. Hey, the day could even take on a theme. That's right. Hey, so just get out there, see, taste, touch, and feel the magic. And you'll understand why I decided to roll some dice for you. That's right. In any event, enough on synchronicity. I think you get the point. Let's dive in with the birthday read. Your month is November, your day the 1st, your sign is 7 to 10 degrees Scorpio of the Scorpio 1 period specifically, and your quality and element is fixed water. Now, what does that mean? Well, that's a little bit too breathy to get into, but there's another video for that if you're interested. So November 1st, the day of Onslaught. The active people born on November 1 give their undivided energy to endeavors in which they are involved. There is an undeniable attraction to danger working on this day. Not only do November 1 people tend to seek it out, but it can come up behind them and often catch them unawares, it says in plural. For those born on this day, excitement in their profession is a prerequisite. And if they spend an extended amount of time in an unstimulating job, well, they are likely to stagnate and atrophy. And until November 1 people have found a good way to satisfy this need for stimulation, their lives remain unfulfilled. And the aggressive elements of this personality find easy expression. In general, others are not offended by November 1 person's forceful attitude, and since those born on this day usually present themselves in a straightforward, guileless fashion. Honesty in general comes naturally to November 1 people, but they are also capable of hiding very complex, covert activities very well. And therefore, they gladly show a great deal of themselves to the outside world, but by no means everything. November 1 people display immense self-confidence, but their disregard of danger can place them in harm's way, both physically and psychologically. And they also have a tendency to underrate their adversaries and brush off those who would warn them to be more guarded. And November 1 people must not only learn to be more realistic in sizing up the opposition, but also should try to view life in general with a more coldly objective eye. And they have to begin, hopefully sooner in their lives rather than later, to listen to the advice of others and to take it to heart. November 1 people are happiest when they are in the attack mode and in their chosen field of endeavor. And whether it is going at a stack of paperwork and instruments, their opponent in a game or sport, or pursuing a love object, they are difficult to stop. And their mode of operation is generally more in the nature of a blitz rather than a careful probe or limited strike. The all-out nature of what they do makes them forces to be reckoned with, but at the same time, in competitive situations, it may leave their own defense open to punishing counterstrikes. And those born on this day usually have excellent, even brilliant insight into technical matters as well as people, but rarely into themselves. They need to spend a considerable amount of time getting to know the deeper aspects of their nature. And in addition, November 1 people, as stated above, could benefit from a more defensive or guarded orientation. Cultivation of good, sound common sense will take them a long way on their path. Well, all right. How about that for a pretty dynamic birthday breakdown? I thought it was really interesting myself. So let's dive into some of the notes that I've made. I like to provide a little bit of a commentary so you can see why I thought it was an interesting day. All right, let's get into it. November 1st, the day of Onslaught. It says, you're purportedly active people and you give your undivided attention to the enterprises that you undertake. With an apparent draw to danger. All right, you're not the only one, but just be mindful. There are very few of you. That's right. What else we got here? Both in terms of being sought out, but it also finding you. Hey, that's the nature of danger, I would argue. This draw to danger is apparently so rooted in excitement. If you spend time without as much, the reading claims you're likely to stagnate and atrophy and lead a life felt unfulfilled. And I would say by and large that applies to the other folks too. So you're not alone in that regard either. All this outlined, I find this element of an easily expressed, aggressive, faceted, forceful attitude interesting. See, 6 years in the military, so I have some experience around people with bravado and who have actual strength. And even meeting those with the natural unspoken strength, I don't know about this unoffensive aspect to it. I guess a quiet strength or whatever. But you know what? Maybe the word offensive is incorrect. Maybe it's just not the best word to describe it. See, I can imagine what they're saying, but I just don't know how realistic it is. Because you know what? Most folks who are strong, regardless of whether it's quiet or, or in earnest, they're kind of, what do you call it? Not offensive, but not off-putting either. I don't know, but they're intimidating. That's it. They're a little bit intimidating. That's right. And even if they're not even doing anything, they're just standing there. So in any event, I would also argue that's especially the dynamic these days. With any sign of forceful or reserved strength, people kind of get rocked back on their heels. So that being said, this book was written back in like 1994-ish, so things have changed a little bit. They might revise that kind of thing if they were to rewrite it today. That said, the idea of being straightforward and unapologetic, commendable, all right? I find that commendable. Now, I'm not saying that this dynamic doesn't exist. It's just apparently rare or hard for me to directly place at this point in time. I'm sure if I met somebody that, or if somebody reminded me of someone who had that, oh, you know what? Didn't even think of them. Yeah, you're right. That's them. So, in any event, what else do I have to say here? But the reading claims it could probably be associated with the immense self confidence as well as a tendency to underestimate adversaries. All right. To which I'd say it makes all the sense in the world, but which I didn't cotton to in consideration of. So don't let your strength and awareness of as much blind you, okay? You know you've got the strength, but you know what? You might use that as a crutch and be blind to some of the other things that are coming at you in ways that you don't anticipate, something that might kind of counter-strike against your strength. So be open to those other things there. And what else do I have here? There's such a thing as overconfidence. So I don't want to say be mindful or modest or of a measured fear, but this coldly objective eye seems like a great way to relate looking past your own strengths. All right, this element always being always being on the offense, leaving your defense open, relates to the potential disadvantages very well. And I also had this little segue here to mention. I was in this student film where I played an MMA fighter, and they had me going up against an actual MMA instructor. And the thing that was, we would do all these scenes, and he was always going, like, I don't want to say 100%, because he probably would have put me on my ass if we'd even tried. But I was kind of holding my own in certain extents, but he was certainly hitting with at least 85%. He wasn't acting at all. But what I noticed was I was starting to come away with certain amounts of pain in only certain body areas. And I kind of came to recognize, like, this guy's only opening with certain moves and only doing these things over and over and over again, even though there didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason about what we were doing. He was just throwing combos all the time, and it's not like we had a preset choreography. That was the other thing. I'm like, dude, can we do something that's a little bit consistent so we can make it look good? But it was always different, and I was always having to play defense on this guy. But he always opened and used the same moves. So it was just my point here. So if I had been a actual fighting individual, I probably would have went home and started taking notes and formulating some tactics of how to counter those particular moves. So I think this relates really well to kind of what I've been trying to say with knowing your strengths and trying to understand maybe what you aren't strong with, or just not leaning into just those strengths. Any event, hey, what else do I have to say here? But it's interesting that maybe even logical, some of the outlined traits also translate to this idea of spending time to get to know yourself at a deeper level. All right. Again, you may well be overly aware of your parents' strengths and your natural aptitudes and attitudes, but what are you missing? All right, with all your focus on those, you might be missing some stuff. All right, maybe other equally beneficial strengths otherwise buried as well, not just weaknesses. You might be strong in other areas that you're not given a chance to come out. So something to be mindful of, I would say. Yeah, let's not just look at weaknesses, right? It says you're a strong individual. So yeah, what else are you missing? All right, I think that's the point here. Something I thought was real interesting. That being said, that's been your birthday breakdown. So let's dive in with your numbers and your planets. Those born on the first of the month are ruled by the number 1 and by the sun. People born on the first like to be first, and those ruled by the number 1 are typically individual, highly opinionated, and eager to rise to the top. And November 1 people usually have the stamina and the concentration to hang in there, but can experience frustrations. And the sun symbolizes strong creative energy and fire, which is best kept flowing steadily rather than allowed to sporadically flare out of control. Coupled with Pluto and Mars, the ruler and co-ruler of Scorpio, respectively, the sun's influence can lead November 1 people to be rash and highly destructive to themselves and to others. Well, all right. Hey, that's a little bit of a personalized numbers and planets, believe it or not. I know they didn't say much, but they did personalize it for you, and sometimes they don't do that. So let's get into it. What I have to say here. The number 1 and the sun. A Sunday, all right? Or sun-ruled day, to make that more clear. naturally. And it always makes sense when I get to this section if it's a Sunday. And and then what's funny is like I seldom recognize that it was a Sunday until I see it, and I'm like, of course it was a sun ruled day. But I put it together during the read. I don't put it together during the read of the breakdown, even if it's glaring. November 1st, I should know right off the bat, but I never put it together. And despite how glaringly apparent both the day and the number one, the breakdown is just, it makes all the sense in the world because this day is so hyper focused on like one or two given facets. And those facets are so inextricably fused that they might as well be the same thing to that end. And I would argue if you went back to any of the other days that have sun rulership, you'd see what I mean. It might be focused on seduction or allure or like sexual magnetism. Like that one facet seems to permeate the whole day. And your day was like strength and aggression and attraction to dangers, just all those things lined up in the same way. But that being said, what else do we have here? Influence can lead November 1 folks to be rash, is what they said, and also highly destructive to themselves and others. So despite a love of danger, don't flare out of control, all right? You might have that fire, but don't let it get out of control, all right? Yeah, so that's what they did to personalize it for you. And I just wanted to drill down on the sun dynamics in case you were interested in maybe trying to understand that facet of yourself that's just so like, that makes you who you are. Who's to say? Now, you might not take any of this as gospel, but who's to say? You might look into it, do a little research on your own for the numbers 1 in the sun, and find that, hey, a lot of this speaks a lot more to my personality than I would have thought. In any event, something of interest for you there. So let's dive in with your tarot. With your numbers and your planets in the bag, let's dive into the tarot. One of the more eclectic in the New Age metaphysical ideologies, but hey, we don't have to take it home with us to start dealing out cards, influence our every whim and flight of fancy. But it's your birthday, so let's see what it has to say, all right? Expand our horizons. That cold, objective eye, let's put it in a rear view for a moment. The first card of the major arcana is the Magician, who symbolizes intellect, communication, information, as well as magic. That's right. You got fire and magic here. Over his head is an infinity symbol, which in some tarot decks takes the form of a hat, and in others, a halo. Many interpretations may be drawn, and one of which is that the Magician recognizes the cyclical and unending nature of life and is empowered by this understanding. The positive traits suggested by this card include diplomatic skill and shrewdness, but negatively, lack of scruples and opportunism. The choice rests with the November 1 person, whether it be taken up with superficiality and destructive impulses, or to develop more far-reaching influences on society, as well as deeper personal goals. All right. Hey, they seemingly personalize this one for you a little bit, but it's by and large a copy-paste job. I think they kind of just removed the previous date and thrown November 1 in there. But no matter. Let's see what I had to say here. The Magician for intellect, communication, and for magic. I can communicate the word communication very well here, which on its face doesn't seem to speak to this day's aggressive strength, all right? But an undivided, is that what I said? An energy to your endeavors, perhaps. All right. But the breakdown briefly mentioned as much. You're attacking the paperwork. All right. Your steadfast devotion, undivided energy. I also say energy, drive, and stick-to-itiveness is definitely a form of magic. All right. As hard as it is to maintain sometimes. I mean, maybe not for you, but for the rest of us, if we see those people that have it, it might as well be magic. Don't know how they do it sometimes. Suggestions of diplomacy, notwithstanding a through-line suggestion for Scorpios, it would seem. There's a lot of you folks a little bit aggressive. It's that Pluto-Mars rulership. It makes you see like the darker side of human nature, supposedly. And then the Mars for the god of war, aggression. Hey, those couplings seem to really throw in a lot of dynamic. I can't think of the word. It makes it very tough for some of you folks. It adds a lot of interesting dynamics there. But the choice rests with you, whether or not to be taken up with superficiality or destructive tendencies, or the deeper goals and the influence on society. All right, you can be there for yourself or you can be there for others. Choice is yours. No judgment either way. It's just something to think about. And what else do we got here? It's well within our power to evolve. So we should, if we desire to. Boy, I'm all over the place tonight. Regardless what traits we might so happen to possess. All right, yours just happens to be that strength and attraction to danger. Other folks with that sexual magnetism, hey, same boat. You can evolve and contribute back to society with focus on the superficiality. Your choice. What else we got here? So it's great advice for anybody, I'd argue, but they did save it for you to some extent. That's right, a little bit of the destructive impulses. I think that one might have been specifically for you. I don't remember sexual magnetism, folks, with destruction aspects to it. But in any event, hey, that's been your tarot for the magician. So let's move on to your health. Let's try to reconcile all my stymies here. Let's see what I can communicate better. I'm not a number one sun rulership, so I'm a Uranus, so I'm a little more eclectic and, explosive. Let's get back to it. All right. November 1 people, not surprisingly, are accident prone, and they must keep a good sense that they exercise daily in caring for themselves. Vigorous physical exercise, highly recommended for these hard driving people, along with competitive games and sports. Martial arts are perhaps attractive to those born on November 1, but should be practiced with great care as well as restraint. As far as diet is concerned, November 1 people are usually less than fastidious and may indeed resist disciplining their eating habits. Alcohol consumption should be strictly limited, it says. All right. Pretty sparse health entry here. The tarot one was pretty large. I think they had to compensate for that. And they personalized your numbers and planets a little bit. So they sparsed out the health for you here. Any event, let's get into the notes. See what I had to say about the health. Let's see what else I can fumble here. You're accident prone, but must keep a good sense for daily exercise, I said. Vigorous and competitive are recommended. The other day, they had a similar suggestion. Can't recall the day, but they said combat sports. And then they listed off all the different martial arts, practices and such. And then they said Tai Chi for grace. So, hey, they didn't say that for you. No combat sports. But something to be mindful of if that's a certain vein that you decide to take on. And hey, who doesn't want grace, right? That's right. It said for aggression, you do the combat and vigorous exercise, or the competitive sports anyhow. And they mentioned care and restraint for as much. However, that said, you're accident prone because of the dangers. So maybe that's why they're saying show restraint. A measured fear, I think is what I wrote earlier. That's right. But the same for diet as well as alcohol. So show some restraint. So, that's if you feel like taking the notes. That's right. In any event, that's been your health. So let's move on to some advice. Oh, I think we've gotten enough of that already, but let's see what they have to say. Common sense is your crying need. All right. Learn to protect yourself in daily life and remain focused on the vanguard, but don't forget your rear guard. Get to know yourself better. All right. Hey, we heard that last one quite a bit. All right. Let's see what I had to say here about your advice. Common sense, a crying need. Is that so? All right. See, I didn't realize or pick up on that from the breakdown or anything else, but maybe that's the case, and you miss things whilst driving fast and hard at those objectives of yours, right? Which, just watch out for pedestrians, I would say, all right? Protect yourself, too, if you happen to be on the sidewalk and you got those other folks driving hard at you. Your vanguard and rear guard, right? All right. Probably in a literal accident means you should watch the, being protective of yourself. And I'd argue in every sense. Yeah, okay, what else am I saying? Don't be blinded by your strength and prowess or your physical presence. When I was a Marine security guard, the first line of defense in the embassy was Marine presence. Had nothing to do with anything else. Just the fact that there was a Marine standing guard that put people back on their heels. So yeah, maybe that's something you lean too much into, your physical presence. Maybe you don't even know it because you hadn't heard it before. But yeah, your physical presence. Don't lean in on just your strengths. Be open to, like I said, figuring out what the other stuff is. All right. Complacency can set in if and you do. That's right. So what else do I have to say here? Watch your vanguard and your rear guard. That's right. Keep things measured. As for getting to know yourself better, hey, great advice. What else is there to say, right? Got to get your true nature into perspective there. I think that's the Buddhist mindset. Understand your true self nature. Hey, nothing wrong with that. And even that's been your advice. So let's take the energy down just a hair and move on with your meditation. That's right, your meditation for the November 1 birthday. The stillest part of the hurricane is in the center. All right, I think we all knew that, but something to meditate on. Once again, the stillest part of the hurricane is in the center. All right, hey, I think it works perfect for this day. That's right. But I'm not going to throw my spin on it or try to influence it for you. Your birthday, your meditation. So I'll leave that with you. But let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. All right, let's do the work. Let's find out what we got here for your strengths and your weaknesses. Your strengths, you're energetic. That's right, that magic I mentioned. You're self-confident. That's right, first line of defense. You're a physical presence, and you're expansive. Expansive. That's usually reserved for Jupiter days, number 3s. Hey, you got that, and you're a number 1 sun rulership. All right, energetic, self-confident, and expansive. But now let's move on to your weaknesses. What could they be? Let's do the real work here. Your weaknesses, can you guess? You're destructive, you're chaotic, and you're restless. Ooh, you know what? I might argue that the restlessness contributes to both of those other ones, destructive, chaotic, and restless. That's right. Hey, just get that restlessness under control. Am I right? The others should follow suit. Yeah, that's right. In any event, those have been your strengths and weaknesses. Let's take us out with those born on this day. And when we dive in with those born on this day, not only get to see who shares your company, who else shares your birthday, but see what their passions were. Oh, that's right. Well, maybe it might have just been their job and got them got them into the book because of that. But with that being said, I think it's a perfect opportunity to focus on what our passions may or may not be. And I say that because I meet a lot of folks when I get out in the world and ask them what they do, and more importantly, if they like it, and they don't, because they don't have a passion. They haven't had the time to put in the work to figure it out. And so I figured this is the perfect opportunity to figure out what these folks did to get themselves in the book. Like I said, it might not have been their passion, but hey, maybe it was. And even if it wasn't, at least if we're looking at it through that prism, maybe we can take some inspiration, stir the fires on ourselves, and figure out our own passions, if that's something that's sorely lacking in your life. I know it says you like to look for the danger, but hey, maybe if you had a passion, you wouldn't be doing that as much. Who's to say? So that being said, let's get into it. Those born on this day. We start off with Alexander Alekhine. He was a Russian world champion chess master, and he held the title for a record 18 years in 2 reigns, it says. We also have Stephen Crane, the war correspondent and short story writer, and the novelist of The Red Badge of Courage, and died of tuberculosis at age 28, well before his time, they would argue. Al Arbor was a hockey coach, or might still be, with the New York Islanders, 4 straight Stanley Cup titles, and second in all-time career wins. We have Larry Flint's the pornographer publisher, as well as of Hustler magazine, shot by a sniper, paralyzed, and born again, it says. Let's see here, lost my place. Marcel Ophuls, French TV film director of The Sorrow and the Pity, son of Max. We have Fernando Valenzuela, baseball pitcher, rookie of the year, National League strikeout leader, and a Cy Young Award winner. We also have Gary Player, South African golfer, 3-time Masters, British Open, 2-time PGA winner. Richard Lewis, literary critic, scholar of the American Adam. We also have Naomi Mitchison, a Scottish novelist of the African heroes and a farmer. Jacques José Attila was a European bank president and a twin of Bernard. We also have Bernard Attila, the Air France chairman. We also have Sweet Lou Donaldson, jazz alto saxophonist. I dare argue most of the jazz saxophonists have the cool names. We also have Victoria de Los Angeles, Spanish soprano, Edgar Ritz, German film director of Hemat, and a cinematographer and a producer. We also have Chero, I'm guessing, one word, one name. Count Lewis Harmon, it also says, a palmist, whatever that might be, a numerologist and an astrologer. Someone who reads palms, apparently. Umberto Agnelli, an Italian industrialist and the Fiat chairman. Nicholas Boileau, French 18th century political satirist. They always get me with the French names, and then they really double down with them sometimes. Edward W. Said, literary critic and a Palestinian activist. Hannah Hoke, German rather. I don't know where British came from. German Dadaist painter, and Eugene Joachim, German conductor. Boy, I didn't recognize many of those names, but hey, you know what? Doesn't mean we couldn't take some inspiration from them. We had sports people in the sports there. We had a pornographer. How about that? Shot by a sniper's bullet. Who else do we have? We had saxophonists. Hey, you know what? Music. I don't know. It didn't seem like a lot of people seeking danger so much, but danger certainly found one of them, didn't it? That's right. In any event, hey, that's been a November 1st, the day of Onslaught. Except to say, your season is fall, your sign is Scorpio once again, Scorpio I specifically, and your quality and element is fixed water. And once again, this has been November 1st, the day of Onslaught, from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Used Elfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're looking to, pick up this book and dive in further. Let me tell you something, it makes a great icebreaker if you're ever going to host a party, get the party started off right with the conversation flowing, either for better or for worse. If you want to take place a little bit of danger in your household, hey, this might be just the book for you. Either event, if you get the hardcover, you're going to be able to break some ice in a literal fashion too. But hey, you know what? That's not what's important. What's important here, like I said at the top, wishing you a happy birthday. That's right. So I just want to once again say happy birthday. Hope you enjoyed yourself, learned a few things, found some inspiration. Oh yeah, I forgot. Since I mispronounced a bunch of them names, I got to make that up on my side of things by doing some butchering here. That's right. Not done in malice. It's just hooked on phonics doesn't work for me with a lot of names, especially the French ones, I dare say. But in any event, once again, yeah, happy birthday. But for everyone else who joined us randomly, hey, I hope you enjoyed yourself. You join us for your birthday read also. Hopefully we can learn something about each other. That's right. Get down to the basics. Build the community out and all that. That being said, lest we forget, your daily numbers. That's right. Your 1 and your 6, 4 or 7. Get out there. Let the universe show you it's with you on your path. See, taste, touch, feel the magic. That's right. If you get out there and it happens for you, you're going to understand exactly why I brought it up. That's right. Hey, it's your birthday. You got to do something fun. Live dangerously. That's right. This might not seem very dangerous, but you know what? If the universe knows that about you, it's probably going to help you out in that regard. That's right. Who's to say? Maybe throw some plows at you as you're walking down the street. Like I said, it can take on a theme. Any event, hey, I'm running long, so once again, I want to wish you a happy birthday and take care of yourself, all right? Take care.